will have our first panel discussion on digital assets investment trends. Let's welcome our esteemed panelists to the stage. May we have Mr. Tobias Barr. He is the partner at Blockchain Founders Fund. Mr. Tony Gu, founding partner of NGC Ventures. Mr. Rais Mehta, founder and CEO of Stream. Ms. Sony Mohanty, partner at Leo Ventures. Mr. Lim Hui Jie, founder and CEO of Vision Tech Private Limited.
Great, a very good morning to everyone. And in the next segment, it's going to be something really exciting. We're looking at digital assets investment trends. And today we have a fantastic panel with us, each very much having their own strengths and insights into the space itself. So without further ado, I'll let the panel introduce themselves and we'll jump straight into questions. Starting with self.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, hi everybody, good morning. My name is Sunny Mohanty. I'm the partner at Leo Ventures. Leo Ventures is a very sort of new fund. It's a 50 million fund incorporated in Singapore. And our investment thesis lies around investing into very early stage startups in Web3. We also touch base on few fintechs as well. And I'm happy to be back at Emergence, organized by Steve Torso, the second time round, and excited to be speaking at the panel as well. Thank you.
Hi, this is Riaz Mehta. I'm the founder of two companies. One of them is All Rights, which is a B2B marketplace platform for film and television content. The other one is Stream, which is a Web3 company, and it's a launchpad for film and TV content, whereby we empower creators to bring their ideas to life through the community, and we allow the community to participate in creative projects and actually have a say in how film and TV content gets made.
Hi, it's Tony from NGC Ventures. We are Web3 funds being established since 2017, been around for a while, investing into technology-driven innovation. Web3 and AI, deep tech is our focus for now. And nice to meet you guys.
Good morning, also from Tobias, or Toby from Toby Short. We run Blockchain Founders Fund, similar to NGC, also early stage venture capital fund in the crypto Web3 space. Been around since 2018, based here in Singapore actually, and invest in a lot of early stage projects all around the world. And now obviously an exciting time with crypto being at all-time highs again. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. And I'm Lim from Vision Group, a data company focusing on AI, blockchain, cybersecurity solutions. And very happy to be moderator for today. So just giving a little bit of insights into the crypto market trends, digital assets trend itself. In 2017, we broke the 100 billion market cap, very much for crypto. And in the start of 2021 itself, we broke the 1 trillion mark. And by the end of 2021, we basically broke the 3 trillion mark. If we look at just less than a week ago, we are probably around 2.8 trillion in terms of market cap for digital assets. And we're just 1 month away from Bitcoin halving. So before jumping into the main question, which is on everyone's mind, I must first give a disclaimer that whatever is being shared is very much of our own opinion, and whatever you do is of your own consequence. If you lose money, keep quiet. If you make money, you know where to find us to buy us drinks. So let's jump to the most important question, which is on everyone's mind. 2.8 trillion, close to the high of market cap of 3 trillion, and we are just 1 month away from Bitcoin halving. To the panelists, what are you actually doing right now? And what would you like to share with the audience, short of asking to buy or not to buy? Please.
We see this as an amazing opportunity. I think crypto is here to stay, and we're building an ecosystem. We're empowering people through this ecosystem we're creating a TV show called Crypto Nights, which is essentially like a launchpad for for projects, and where it's like a Shark Tank for crypto, essentially. And we're creating our own fund as well, because we believe that crypto projects are literally going to moon it in the next coming months. And I think it's a very opportune time for people to get involved. So we're kind of doubling down on the space 100%.
Thank you, Riaz. I totally agree with Riaz because I think the market is green if you talk about crypto in general, not only Bitcoin to be specific. And I think we are out of the bear market and very much in the bull markets. I also run the fund, and I see a lot of interest in people investing into Bitcoin. See, again, again, it's up to you when you decide to invest into any digital asset, not only Bitcoin. But I've seen a lot of increase in interest, especially after Bitcoin ETF was announced this year. In terms of halving, this is I think I started my career in 2017, so I've seen quite a Bitcoin halving happening over the years, and this is obviously happens once every 4 years, and next month is the big day. So usually what I've seen that the Bitcoin prices start to shoot up usually before the halving news is announced or near to the halving, but already Bitcoin is touching sky high value already. So it's difficult to say it's going to reach 100K or 1 million because there are a lot of speculations around in the market. It's very difficult to say because I've seen that was like last year or last before when Bitcoin was touching 60K, and suddenly after a couple of months it was back on 29 or 30K. So it's difficult to say even as an investor if Bitcoin is going to be 1 million or 100K or but yeah, we just have you positive, stay positive. I think the whole idea about Bitcoin halving is that that's creating a scarcity. Only 21 million coins in circulation. So just watch out, watch the space, do your own homework, and invest carefully. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really like to talk too much about what you should buy or anything, because if I would know that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. But I can give you a bit of an idea of what we're looking as a venture fund, because it is a little different. We don't really buy any listed tokens, or we not buy just Bitcoin and hold it and hope for the upside. We are more in the private market game. So we look for early stage companies before they list, or even sometimes invest in the actual equity of the business. And that's, of course, sort of thesis or narratives driven. And there are certain narratives in this market which are, I would say, more exciting for a lot of investors or for the general public as well. And you try to identify them, and then you invest as early as you can in these projects, and you help them get listed on exchanges. And then when the public buys in and they're sort of publicly listed on exchanges, then you're obviously going to make the upside and also start making your upside as a fund. And we've now invested, I think, in over 150 of these projects. A lot of them also in the previous more bearish cycle where there wasn't as much excitement to a lot of these projects. And luckily a lot of them are now doing really well or raising additional funding to finish building their product, to get to the consumers and actually help them solve any of their challenges in both the B2C and B2B market. And in this market, I think a lot of people are talking around the whole Bitcoin narrative. There's this new standard, or like new is a different big word, but BRC20, like there's a lot of applications being built on Bitcoin. Bitcoin layer 2s is something which is probably extremely difficult to get allocation at the moment. And a lot of these companies are very fastly oversubscribed. And that's kind of like similar to what's, I think, in 2020, 2021, when a lot of capital is flowing into this market, right? A lot of people now have excess cash because their holdings are increased. A lot of new funds are being raised, or have capital to deploy. So it feels like we're all over again in the same cycle of just like valuations are increasing, sometimes quite drastically in a very short period of time, without having, in my opinion, the rational increase of or improvement of product market fit. Which is fine if the product actually can reach that stage and it's not going to be, a loss-making business at the end of the day. But I do think it's still slightly different. I think we see a lot more interesting founders as compared to, I would say, 3 years ago. A lot more sophisticated investors also coming into the space. Different conversations, but again, there's a lot of copycats in the industry, right? I mean, people, they see a narrative and they jump on it, and then you see 50 Bitcoin layer 2s being built, and like only 2 are different, right? Or like the AI space was very similar, where a lot of projects just fork on ChatGPT or other things and put different interfaces on top of it. So I think the biggest challenge right now as an investor in this market is how to organize your Telegram groups. Because I mean, you have Telegram is used in crypto. Everybody creates groups, and then you add your startup in, and then you try to figure out how to set up calls and stay on track. But then more importantly, understanding what are the key differentiators of those businesses, and like how can you identify them, and hopefully you can also help them throughout the way once you made the investment of getting additional capital in, helping them with hiring, or get listed, and sort of get into that cycle of public markets. Then when you guys start seeing these projects. Or like the general public start seeing these projects. So that's like high level what we're doing, especially in a market like this.
Yeah, I agree on all the panelists' points. On the Bitcoin, I think it's more like allocation strategy rather than investment or speculation strategy, right? Which means that with ETF is all coming, the volatility is much lower than before. Which means that in your portfolio you should have some Bitcoin, right? As allocation strategy, as I said. Whether it's 1% or 10%, it's really up to your risk profile. And if the price drops, doubles, your problem won't start as well, right? It's part of your core portfolio. So I think that's a very different value proposition for Bitcoin, compared to 4 years ago. I think going forward in the next 20 years, you probably will have gold and Bitcoin in your portfolio, maybe even larger proportion to your wealth. I think that's what I see as asset class as a whole. Thanks.
Thank you. And I guess we really have a very good mix of both corporate ventures as well as entrepreneurs on our panel. Coming from a corporate venture standpoint, are you able to share on some of the projects that you're involved in recently? Why do you think that they are interesting, and what might be upcoming, right, for these specific projects or in the next short to mid-term? Open to panel.
Okay, so if I understand your question, what kind of projects are we currently working?
Your mandate, what are you currently looking at now for the projects? Do you see a specific trend that's been happening over the last couple of months or so?
As Tobias I just totally agree with him. We see a lot of surge in AI-based projects, artificial intelligence, even though they're built on a Web3 platform. For instance, I just would like to give you a name of a project called ChainGPT. So basically what they're doing, they are helping, so basically, the smart contract developers in the blockchain space are quite expensive as a talent. So they have taken all these programming into one and put into artificial intelligence, like a machine learning, and they created something called ChainGPT, which creates smart contracts for you automatically as soon as you give a prompt. They also can mint NFTs automatically, and so on and so forth. So like, I see these kind of very innovative projects over the last 6 months to 1 year, once the AI surge happened, mostly in that space, I would say. And what else I've seen? I see a lot of gamification, gamify projects as well, and meme coins. I think meme coins are also back in the market. I see a lot of them approaching us. So meme coins, obviously, they do not, so you have a project, then you have a different side meme coin as well, just to get the traction, the user base, and increase the volume and transactions on the blockchain if you're a blockchain player. On top of that, a lot of people building infrastructure, their blockchains, L1, L2, a lot of, I see a lot of L2 built on L1 as well in that space. And what else? And in terms of use cases, I think payments is obviously where I see a lot of good players, in the market in terms of Web3 I'm talking about. And I think one thing I would like to say that I'm quite bullish about AI and Web3 coming together. I would like to see more of those use cases. I forgot grid computing as well. That also has. I see a lot of projects in that space as well in grid computing, and yeah, I'm quite bullish about these innovative projects, and hopefully they can go public and get listed on exchanges and go public soon. And yeah, thank you.
How about from Tony as well as Tobias? Anything to add on to that?
I see a lot of biotech companies out there. Exhibition, I think that's very interesting saying, right? That's called decentralized science, which is biotech is one of the interesting stuff where you see WorkCoin, right? You see a lot of biotech using Web3 to gather, data, right? And gather data which can be used for treat diseases. You see a lot of AI applications trying to solve different problems. I think Web3 as a technology that is deal with data collection, monetization, making that value flow as freely, rather than creating political digital, silos. I think that's something pretty interesting. While we're trying to understand what's going on and see how we can be investing into that space. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything, Tobias?
I think a big narrative is also the whole space around DePIN, infrastructure networks which can be used for all sorts of things, not just the mining piece of it, but there's also been layer ones built on DePIN. There's companies on top who use decentralized camera networks to follow traffic and funnel that information back to the B2B side where people with parking apps, traffic apps, whatever can use that information. I think that is a very sort of real-life application-based interesting narrative where a lot of money is going into at the moment and also a lot of interest. We have a couple investments done there as well. I think you guys as well. And then the Bitcoin narrative, we've done some investments in that space within lending, within the layer 2 space. We have done a couple new investments within the DeFi space, which is also still a very interesting narrative, especially around derivatives. Intent-based trading strategies has also been quite interesting. And then there's a lot of new emerging layer ones that has been coming out and have raised significant amounts of capital, like Monad, Berachain. There's a lot of new consensus mechanisms which they're using, and they obviously have a lot of new applications being built on them. So you could potentially looking into investing in their biggest stacks, in their lending protocol, in their liquid staking protocol, and then obviously capture that momentum of that different chain. So there's a lot of new things going on, and but I think you have to pick and choose your battle as an investor. It's hard to be in everything. It's hard to be an expert in everything. So that's why we go through different theses. I predominantly look at infrastructure and more DeFi-related projects, and then venture out a bit in like DePIN because there's a lot of connection back to the infrastructure side. And other partners on the fund, they look at different things. But I think not so much have seen in the hyped metaverse space. Also gaming has been, I think, still slowing down quite a bit. And also a lot of B2C application areas with the NFTs or payments is interesting, but it's also very oversaturated at the moment.
Thank you. And very much from an entrepreneurial standpoint, what's your view on the space? What has changed over the last 1-2 years or so? Do you foresee things becoming so-called much better in the next 1-2 years as well?
I think as an entrepreneur, this is hugely exciting, right? I've been in blockchain for about 10 years now, and I've seen the space evolve quite dramatically. And personally, I'm really excited about the AI space and very much in agreement with Ronnie in terms of where I believe the industry is going and where the smart money is moving to as well. There's a ton of money to be made in meme coins, like you would have seen last weekend. There's like incredible pumps that you get, like 10,000% like in a couple of days. So even as an entrepreneur, I do invest in different things as well. So I find that the space is evolving in a manner that now we are ready to build real businesses and real projects. for a while there was just a lot of hype within the industry and a lot of pump and dumps, but I think the real products are now emerging, and this is kind of like the birth of the new internet in a sense. And that's what really excites me personally.
Sounds good. And we've been covering very much the topic on AI as well, because one of the hottest thing out there. Just an interesting fact, for platforms to hit 1 million users, it was actually taking about 180 weeks for Netflix, 40 weeks for Facebook, 12 weeks for Instagram, and ChatGPT basically hit that in just 1 week. And in 8 weeks, they grew to 100 million users. So you can imagine how fast that trend actually really is. But one of the things that's also coming up very much is the areas of regulation. And if we see over the last number of years, regulation has been kicking in quite a little bit, very much for risk protection of retail investors and the likes. Maybe you can shed some light on the regulatory landscape that has changed, and you think it's for the better, it's for the worse? Are we still really far off from proper regulation of the likes? What's your view on that?
Well, I think regulations have only helped this market grow, in my opinion. Because when I started out in the space of crypto, I think it was a Wild West. And everybody was building everything, and they were raising funds through a mechanism called ICOs. I think gone are those days. And because of clear regulations and policies, we are able to grow forward. I mean, say Circle, for example, as a company, the issuer of USDC, they got full license in Singapore, and I think they've got full license in Europe as well to run business as a e-money, and they are now going to be a unicorn on the way to become a unicorn. If you see examples of these kind of projects, then I would totally vouch that, even though you're launching a new project, starting a new company in the crypto or the digital asset space, talk to the proper, lawyers, have people who are, into, they've done AML, have AML officers onboarded as well. I'm saying that because to safeguard yourself, because this market is definitely going to be regulated. There is no way that you can shy away from regulations and grow in this space.
I feel regulation is absolutely key for this industry in order for it to succeed and for Web 2 audiences to come into Web 3, because without that regulatory framework, this industry cannot grow at scale. That how do we get adoption across the next 5-6 billion people? And there needs to be a strong regulatory framework to do that. The regulators are, from my experience, coming to terms, but they haven't quite figured it out, because it is new territory for everyone. And I think it'll take a lot of working together between businesses, between regulators, between investors and so forth to actually forge that new framework. But we're still early days.
Tony?
I think for regulations, I think we have to understand that regulation comes always later, right? The technology happens first. That is why innovative means, right? So when we do investment, we see many situations where there's no regulation because the technology is so new, which is fine, right? I think that's a good sign, which is you are investing in something that is right. But the regulation will catch up. That's what you see nowadays. They have very clear and correct regulations on crypto digital assets in many countries. I think another thing is coming out is about AI data, right? I mean, there are tons of lawsuits on open AI data. Where it's coming from? Well, there's no regulation yet, but it will soon catch up. So I think that's a very natural progress about investing into technology-driven startups. We are very friendly to understand where the regulation is coming from, but we're not really going after, playing by the rules, right? You have to do certain things when you have regulations, which is not very true. I think that's just how things work. Yeah.
I agree with Tony. Regulation is always reactive, so something needs to happen, and then regulation comes into place. I think there's a lot of different countries which are trying to position them as to be on the forefront of regulating that space. The Middle East, I think, is pushing very hard. Also, some countries in Asia. The U.S. has a very aggressive standpoint toward, over the last couple of months. And I think that needs to, and will over time will fall in place, and there'll be, a somewhat either country-specific or like a nationwide standard, but you never have a global standard, as we don't have in anything really, at least not in the foreseeable future. And like I said, I mean, it is totally fine, but I think obviously there are pitfalls as a founder when you launch companies with a token, and you might not want to choose the US, but like there's other places where you can do that. So just need to be informed, work with some lawyers who actually know what they're talking about, not just overcharging you on fees, and figure out how you can position it to be in a space where you have flexibility to operate your business model. But over time, that will catch up, and then we will probably also have to obey on a lot more strict or a lot more specific regulations within that space, and that's going to go through the whole tech segment. Like Tony said, it's not just the whole crypto space, because it's also a lot of technologies are emerging, right? You have crypto being combined with AI, with machine learning, and so on and so forth, and there will be a standard that will regulate some of these things together or separate from another. But I don't believe that we will have a future where we only having one technology. They all kind of go together. And I think Deepin is also a very interesting example where a lot of these technologies have real life applications because we can solve something better when it's decentralized. And you can add certain technologies to it in order to make a very interesting tech stack, which has benefits to the consumers or the business in itself.
Yeah, I've been following very much on the question on so-called the global scene and setting. I mean, many a time during investments, of course, from a digital asset standpoint, we are all global citizens. But the communities has very much changed, and the scene between some major so-called cities where a lot of different digital asset communities aggregate, whether it's from Singapore or Hong Kong or Dubai or US, maybe you can shed some lights on how have you personally seen the scene change? What do you think are some opportunities within some of these different places as well?
Yeah, so basically, aside from running this venture capital fund, mostly in the the narrative is Web3 and Web2. I also head a Layer 2 blockchain foundation, and the head office is out of Dubai. And between Singapore and Dubai, I would say Singapore used to be the front runner in the digital asset space a couple of years ago. I would say I was very proud of that. But I think currently today, I think has lost the charm to Dubai, I would say. Even though Hong Kong, I think I hear that quite friendly for retail investors who are investing into digital assets. But I think Dubai is still preferred destination for many startups to open their shops, and they are relocating. For instance, India, I would say the developers or the founders that I had known, they all shifted to Dubai during 2020 post-COVID, and many of them are settled over there because Dubai, even though they have regulations, they have, but I think it's not very clear at this point in time. What I hear from the founders is that there is a unsurety that is when it comes to regulation. So they are still building with the hopes that one day things will be streamlined and they will be given a proper guidance. But again, Dubai is preferred as opposed to, I would say, a Singapore or a Hong Kong because of this friendliness. And a lot of people are housing there, like sales and marketing offices there. A lot of conferences are happening in Dubai as opposed to Singapore, I would say, in the Web3 digital asset space. For instance, Token 2049, which always used to happen in Singapore, is also happening in Singapore, but first time is happening in Dubai. So I think Dubai is quite ahead in the game when it comes to the adoption. Thank you.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Ronnie. I think I remember back in 2017, Singapore was the hub, and it was a very vibrant environment for blockchain and crypto. But now, over the last couple of years, things have changed dramatically, and I feel that Dubai has really embraced it. And even from a government standpoint, there's a lot of support for Web3 projects, for holding conferences there, and they're trying to make it as easy as possible. So a lot of people that I know within this space have actually moved from here to Dubai as well. So we see that as a general trend.
Yeah, I think that's the whole purpose of being decentralized. You have multiple countries, right, or cities to be the hub. I think Dubai is doing a great job, Singapore doing a great job, Hong Kong doing a great job, and many European countries, Portugal, right, doing a great job. So we have, I would say, a lot of crypto hubs around the world, and they can compete with each other and help each other out. I think that's a pretty good sign.
I think we have to look at it a little different because a lot of projects are based somewhere, but they're not actually incorporated there, right? That's also another thing. I mean, a lot of people still in the US, but they're not having a US entity, which they're building. A lot of people still in China, but they're not operating out of a Chinese entity. They have a Singapore entity. Then it also depends if you have an equity company or if you have a token company, right? Like if you have an equity company, very simple to set up an entity in Singapore. It takes like, I don't know, 3 hours or whatever. But if you have a token, then you need a foundation, an offering entity, that's different. A lot of people choose Panama, right? Because BVI and Cayman gets more complicated. Dubai is interesting, but I think it's very scattered, right? You have VARA, you have DFC, you have all these other things. Nobody knows where to incorporate, know what to do. DFC doesn't want to have crypto. They only want fintech. So like they need to still like kind of figure out, like, be a little bit more organized. Also, Abu Dhabi is always driving a lot of traction and give people grants and capital and office space if you go there. But then you have to be in Abu Dhabi. No one wants to be in Abu Dhabi. Everyone wants to be in Dubai. So it's still a bit all over the place, I would say. But I definitely agree with that. Dubai is doing a big push into that region. And Hong Kong, I think, is doing really well. Right now, there's also WOW Summit and Hashkey stuff that have been happening in Hong Kong. A lot of Bitcoin-related conferences are in Hong Kong. There's a lot of capital from the old miners or still miners based out of China, which is flowing into Hong Kong. So there's a lot of capital there. And, but it's still expensive. There's only a couple of companies in Hong Kong which got a license, and it's a tedious process. Europe has a new standard, but it's not the most favorable. But there are certain places in Europe like Cyprus and Portugal which are doing really well because they're also very tax neutral. But people are obviously not in Cyprus. It's the same thing, right? They might have set up a company there, but they're not living in Cyprus because there's nothing to do. So it always is a mix of like where to be from a company perspective, where you have less geopolitical risk. That's why you also don't want to be. I mean, a lot of people live in Bali, right, or Phuket or Da Nang as crypto natives, but they're not operating a business out of Bali because you have way too much geopolitical risk if you incorporate a business in Indonesia. So that's why you still. But it also doesn't really matter because I barely talk to someone who's sitting in the same place where his a company is incorporated. So that's the beauty about crypto. People are all over the world. It's not just like that the technology is decentralized, it's also the teams, right? So, you know, it will emerge wherever it's the best opportunity and people will naturally move there over time or reincorporate the business. So it doesn't really matter where the regulation is most favorable. As long as you have you know, it's not a red flag, it's not on any gray list. You can open bank accounts, and as long as like, you know, investors find it favorable to invest their capital into business incorporated there. Everything else doesn't really matter in that space, to be honest.
I just want to add, I think Web3 is really truly decentralized in that sense. You know, you have more developers community out of India or Vietnam, you know, then you have businesses incorporated, for example, crypto-friendly jurisdictions, as you rightly said, VVI, Cayman, always been in the crypto-friendly jurisdictions. But you are not physically based there, you know, as a founder. So I think Web3 is truly decentralized in its sense. Thank you.
Very true. So we have very much come to the end of the panel, but before we leave, there's one key takeaway that you'd like the audience to take away and remember or take note of. What might that be? To the panel? One key takeaway.
One key takeaway is that always attend these kind of conferences, network, meet people, learn new things, and keep yourself relevant in whatever space you are. Thank you.
I would say to the audience, don't be a bystander. There's change happening. We're at this beginning of this massive wave. Don't get left behind. You know, learn as much as you can and join the change, be the change.
Yeah, do have some Bitcoin in your portfolio.
Good one.
Do your own research. not investment advice.
Perfect. Sounds good. We've come to very much the end of the panel. Please give the panelists a round of applause. Thank you very much for your attention and time. Thank you to panelists.